Alice stumbled through the twisted, darkened forest of Wonderland, her heart pounding in her chest. She knew that something was following her, but she couldn't see it. All she could hear was the sound of rustling leaves and the pounding of her own heart. She had been wandering for what felt like an eternity, lost in a world that was now foreign to her. Everything that was once familiar had become a grotesque, nightmarish version of itself. The Cheshire Cat's grin had become a gaping maw full of razor-sharp teeth, and the caterpillar had transformed into a writhing mass of tendrils and fangs. As Alice ran through the forest, she saw a faint light in the distance. She sprinted towards it, hoping that it would lead her to safety. As she drew closer, she saw that the light was coming from a house. It was the only building she had seen for miles. As she approached, Alice could feel a sense of dread creeping up inside her. The house was old and decrepit, the windows broke in and boarded up. The door creaked open as she pushed it, and she stepped inside. The interior was just as decrepit as the exterior. The walls were covered in mold, and the air was thick with the smell of decay. Alice heard a noise coming from the darkness, and her heart skipped a beat. She could see a shadowy figure moving in the corner of the room. As she approached, she saw that it was the Mad Hatter. His face was twisted into a grotesque grin, his eyes full of madness. The Hatter lunged at Alice, his fingers like claws. She tried to fight him off, but he was too strong. As she struggled, she realized with horror that his body was made of rotting flesh and bones. Just when she thought she was going to die, the Hatter suddenly stopped and backed away. Alice could see a figure emerging from the shadows, a creature that was even more grotesque than the Hatter. It was the Queen of Hearts, her face twisted into a mask of malevolent glee. She beckoned to Alice, promising to take her to safety. Alice knew that she couldn't trust the Queen, but she had no other choice. She followed her deeper into the darkness, her heart pounding with fear and uncertainty. As they walked, Alice felt the darkness closing in around her, felt the weight of the evil that permeated this twisted version of Wonderland. She could sense that something was watching them, stalking them from the shadows. Suddenly, the Queen stopped, and Alice could feel the weight of her gaze upon her. The Queen whispered something to her, something that sent a chill down her spine. Alice realized that the Queen had been leading her into a trap, that she was never going to let her leave this place alive. She turned to run, but it was too late. The darkness had taken hold of her, and she was trapped forever in Wonderland, haunted by the Jabberwock and the other twisted creatures that now ruled over this dark and terrifying place. As the years passed, Alice became a twisted shadow of her former self. She had lost all hope of escape, all hope of returning to the world she had once known. She was a prisoner, a slave to the darkness and the horrors that lurked in the shadows. In the end, Alice knew that there was no escape from the nightmare that had become her life. She stumbled through the forest, her body weak and frail. As she fell to the ground, she felt a cold, bony hand wrap around her ankle. The Queen of Hearts loomed over her, a wicked smile on her face. Alice knew that this was the end. She closed her eyes